Billennium is a short story by J.G. Ballard, published in 1961. This dystopian speculative science fiction is from the third-person perspective. It is about John Ward and Henry Rossiter's quest to navigate spatial constraints and diminishing privacy in confining urban living spaces. The title Billennium by J.G. Ballard is a play on the words billion and millennium, encapsulating the idea of overpopulation and the pressures it places on society and living spaces. In the story, the world is so overcrowded that people are living in incredibly small spaces, and the government has introduced a strict policy limiting the living area for each individual. Essentially a billennium of people living in confined spaces. The title Billennium highlights the extreme stifling conditions and the immense population density in the story's dystopian future. The blended word in the title serves as a commentary on the challenges and absurdities of a world stretched to its limits in terms of space and resources, as it suggests an explosion of population growth in a hyperbolic time frame. In Billennium, people are living in extremely small apartments that are tiny, cramped, and uncomfortable. The congested living spaces made of a honeycomb of split rooms and claustrophobic cubicles highlight the uniform and limited nature of the living spaces. The architecture, or the design of the buildings, is focused on maximizing the number of people that can fit into a limited area, leading to a lack of privacy and personal space. Spatial constraints means that people don't have much room to move around or do things. In the story, everyone has to be very careful not to waste any space in their tiny apartments. People can't stretch out, and they often have to sleep in shifts because there's not enough space for everyone to sleep at the same time. Even walking down the hallway is a tight squeeze because of all the people living in the building. The world is suffering from extreme overpopulation, and the government has limited each person to a very small living area. Perishing privacy and personal space in Billennium shows how people in this overcrowded world have very little room to themselves. They can't do anything without being in close quarters with others, and this lack of personal space takes away their privacy and personal freedom. It's a world where personal boundaries and the ability to be alone have all but disappeared. Privacy means having your own space where you can do things without others watching or interfering. The living conditions in Billennium are so cramped that it's impossible to have personal space. The apartments are tiny, and there are too many people living in them. The story describes how everything is shared and personal autonomy is eroded as everyone is forced to share tiny quarters with paper-thin partitions. Ward shares a tiny apartment with Rossiter and 4 other people, and there's no room for personal space. Personal space and privacy are linked to personal freedom. In the story, people have very little freedom because they can't even move around in their own home cubicles without bumping into others. The lack of personal space makes people feel trapped and controlled by the overcrowded environment, just as Ward was trapped in a gigantic pedestrian jam and the world's population was permanently trapped in vast urban conurbations. The story also hints at a sense of constant surveillance. In a world without privacy, people are always being watched, either by others, by the government, or by landlords and rent managers. Closed living quarters ensure there's no escaping the gaze of others. J.G. Ballard imagines towns that are incredibly crowded, like beehives. With each person given only a tiny living space of 4 square meters, Ward and Rossiter explore a hidden area about 15 square meters in size behind a wall in their small living space. Feeling the emptiness and appreciating the idea of having more room, indicating the psychological pressure of escaping suffocating spatial spaces. The city represents a time before it became a necropolis or a city of spatial dead. The excessive overcrowding severely restricts personal freedom and commodifies privacy. Population locks, waiting in lines, and traffic jams become routine matters in daily life. The future in Billennium depicts a society that's grown too much and is oppressive to its people. This overgrown civilization is controlled by scale calculations, meters, rental departments, and harsh governmental rules. This extreme population density has ruined people's lives and eliminated non-human life forms. The city has expanded so much that important buildings and natural areas have to be destroyed to make room for more people. Thus, the very pessimistic outlook in Billennium raises ecological awareness and serves as a social critique of the housing crisis, uncaring bureaucracy, and economic inequality.